Hello everybody, this is Solar Tiger with another crypto mining video. Today is in June of 2023 and outside the weather is very sunny. Okay, as you can see, this is my solar mining system, well, partly solar, as you've seen before. Now I am mining Monero, it's a CPU coin, and I am using fairly low budget equipment as you've seen in previous videos. So just as a quick reminder, we have the top machine here. This is an Intel NUC. It has an i5 5th generation processor, so 5220 I think, or something similar to that. So i5, and this device is running on solar power. So it runs on straight 12 volts. It's Intel NUC. So this one usually does about 700 to 800 hashes per second on Monero. And then underneath I have two ASOS Chromebox 3s. And these each have an i7 8550U processor. And they each have 8 megabytes of level 3 cache. The i5 here has 2 or 3 megabytes, can't remember now. So that's that. So these are the ASOS Chromebox 3s. These have been unlocked using Mr. Chromebox.tech firmware upgrade, or firmware. It's had the original Google firmware erased and replaced with a UEFI BIOS. If you want to do this, you can visit mrchromebox.tech, just Google it, and you'll find all the information that you need. Now these are originally Google devices, and Google devices have a finite kind of lifetime. Basically, after a certain period, Google no longer support them, and they come to the end of their life, and then you're forced to buy new hardware, and then this hardware comes up for sale on eBay. Now, these are good for mining as they have 8 megabytes of L3 cache, and you can mine on all 4 processor cores, so that's good. Pricing can vary enormously. Prices start at £80–90 and go up from there, up to the few hundreds. So that's that. Obviously I don't want to spend that much money on equipment, so I keep my eye out on eBay for bargains. The bottom unit I paid £80 odd for. This top unit I got a bargain. I scored this for £40 and it works great, so that's what we got. Anyhow, this video is about an issue that I had. Now, this Intel NUC, it's normal, there's nothing special about this, and it has a normal BIOS. You can access it and you have all the options that you normally would have in a normal BIOS. Actually, this one is better because it has a visual BIOS, or Intel's visual BIOS, and it's graphical and you can use a mouse and it's easy to use. and you have all the features that you would expect, including control of the CPU fan. You can go into the BIOS, you can see the fan speed, and you can change it. Or you can override the automatic settings, and I have it set to run 100% speed all the time. And since the fan is pretty quiet, I have no issue with that, and it helps to cool the machine because mining is relatively intense work on the processor, and it runs 24/7, so I have the fan set at maximum all the time. Now, the Chromeboxes, they have CPU fans too, but because they have been reflashed with the Mr. Chromebox.tech firmware, if you go into the BIOS, there are very limited options. Basically, you can change the boot device and set the time. I think that's about all you can do, because the firmware is more just to unlock the device rather than anything else. So what this means is you have no control over the CPU fan. It doesn't even show it in the BIOS, let alone give you settings to change it. Now, since I am using these for mining, and I said mining is a fairly CPU intense task, the CPU has to work reasonably hard all the time, and with the i7 processors, that creates a reasonable amount of heat. Now, as it is, or as it was, I have done something to it, but as it was, I run Linux on all my devices. So, and in Linux, I could not find any way to read the fan speed. I tried all different things that I saw online. I used LM sensors, fan control, and all different things I saw online, and I could not see the CPU fan speed, let alone have any way of changing it. I could read all the temperatures and stuff like that, but nowhere could I see the fan speed. And during normal conditions of me mining, the temperature got up to the low to mid 70s degrees, so 74, 75, 76 degrees centigrade was fairly common, and for me that's a bit warm. I'd like my equipment to run a bit cooler than that, so I was trying any way that I could try to increase the fan speed, and I wasn't having any luck. So I was googling other things online, and I came across an interesting thing. Now, the CPU fans in here are of the 4-wire variety. They run on 5 volts, so you obviously have plus 5 volts ground, and then you have 2 remaining wires. One is for the tachometer, or the speed sensor, and then there is 1 wire for PWM control, or speed control. So after googling different things online, I discovered that with a lot of these 4-wire fans, if you disconnect the PWM control wire, this causes the fan to run at maximum speed all the time. And this is what I wanted. I wanted the fan to run at full speed all of the time. But I was trying to achieve that through software on the unit. and I drew a blank on it. Partly of two things. One, because of the firmware, and two, because I choose to run Linux. It makes life more difficult. So once I found out that I could do this fan mod by simply cutting one wire, I decided to do an experiment. So I had another 4-wire fan that came out of a different PC, and so I rigged up plus 5 volts and ground, and I hooked it up to a USB power bank to see what would happen if I only connected the power to the fan. And surprise, surprise, if you connect just the 5 volts and the ground and don't connect the other 2 wires, the fan magically ran at maximum speed. So I thought, great, I'll try this on my Chrome boxes to see what would happen. And lo and behold, exactly the same thing happened. So now, in these devices, I will show you what I did. I'll just show you on the iPad. I'll bring up a picture. Find the picture. Okay, so I disassembled the Chrome box, and this is the motherboard, the processor side of the motherboard. As you can see, here is the CPU fan and the heatsink. There's a heat pipe, and then there's a cooler through which air is forced through by the CPU blower. So the CPU blower sucks in air through the top here and then forces it out through the cooler, these fins here, the exhaust to the outside. Anyway, so the modification I did to the fan is very simple. The fan has 4 wires, a red, black, a yellow and a blue, and from doing some googling, obviously the red wire is plus 5 volts, the black wire is ground. From what I worked out, the yellow wire is the tachometer wire, in other words the speed sensor wire, and the blue wire is the PWM control wire. So I left the yellow wire connected, which is the speed sensing wire, in case the motherboard does actually monitor the fan speed. If I cut the yellow wire, then the motherboard might think that the fan has completely stopped working, and then the computer might not work. So I decided to leave that one connected, and I simply cut the blue wire, which is the PWM B control wire. In other words, the motherboard sends signals through the blue wire to control the speed of the fan. So I simply cut the blue wire. I cut it in a convenient place so that I could solder the wires back together if I needed to. But I don't think this will be needed. So after that, I put it all back together, and then I set it running again. So, also what I've done is I've stacked all the units on top of one another, but to increase the cooling, if I crouch down here, the intake slots for the air intake are actually on the bottom of the unit, and if it stands on its actual feet, this gap here isn't that great, so I simply stuck balls of blue tack under the feet to make the gap bigger so there's a better airflow. So I've done that on the bottom unit and the top unit. The Intel NUC has its slots on the side, so that's a better thing. So it takes its cooling air in on the side, and also it has a metal chassis, metal on the outside, whereas the Chrome boxes are metal on the inside. So that's how that works. So if you're running mining equipment, it's better for the equipment to run as cool as possible, as that maximises the life of the components. So that's how that works. So if I come back to VNC, this is Chrome box number 2, which is this top one. I've also put these units back into performance mode, because by running Linux on these two units gives me the option of either using performance mode or balance mode. Obviously the performance mode works, there's better performance, but increases power consumption and also heat reduction. So before I turned it down to balanced. Now I improved my cooling, I've turned it out to performance setting. And you can see here we're running Epson rig, and we're getting 1.88 kilohashes per second. But as you can see here, using P sensors, it's telling me that the CPU is at 57 degrees Celsius. Before this was in the low to mid 70s degrees Celsius. So you can see about a 20 degree drop, and that is good. If I go back to Venera Ocean, to the dashboard, and it loads, you can see that we're averaging 4.3 kilohashes per second, and over the last 24 hours we've averaged 4.6 kilohashes per second, which is a potential earning of 11 pence per day. You can see I have the 4 miners, Chrome box number 2, Chrome box 3, which run on solar, the Intel NUC that's on solar, and the Pi in the shed that is also on solar. So this is Solar Tiger with a video about crypto mining and some tips I have found to help with cooling my miners. So if you found this video interesting, please click like and subscribe to my channel, and I look forward to seeing you in the near future. So this is Solar Tiger saying thank you for watching and goodbye. Thank you.